Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another Elestrals deck profile. It has been a hot minute since I've recorded one of these. I've been incredibly busy. I haven't really been playing the game, but we are back for our very first FIRESTORM deck profile. This one I'm especially excited for because I built this deck today. I didn't expect to have as much fun with this deck as I've been having, but I've only played 2 games with this deck, I'll be entirely honest, and I did make a change in between game 1 and game 2. But I just thought this deck was cool, and I really badly wanted to showcase this for you guys. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. So for a couple of things I want to mention. One, I don't know when this video is going to be coming out, but I'm recording this May 21st. So FIRESTORM is set to release. So the majority of the cards you're going to be seeing in this deck are currently proxies. Like, for example, this is actually a proxy. It's hard to tell there, but it is in fact a proxy. So that's why some of the cards might look a little bit more like out of color and stuff like that. It's just because it's a proxy, and you know the ink is potentially not that good. But that's the only reason why. Secondly, I am not saying that this is a perfectly tournament ready deck, I guess is basically what you need to say. If you couldn't tell by the video and by the card that you see on screen, this is a spider deck profile. And I have really put a lot of emphasis on the spiders here. I am not playing a whole lot of super brand new meta defining staples. I'm playing some of your generic stuff like Ambrosia, Gorgon's Gaze, Shield of Achilles, Tsunami, that sort of stuff. But the amount of staples I'm playing is less than your average deck. So I am putting a lot of emphasis into the spiders themselves. And the only reason I'm doing that, rather than making this deck actually a tournament viable deck, is simply because this is how I prefer to play the game. I prefer to play this game with decks that I enjoy, not just becoming a meta sheep. If a deck that I enjoy is a meta deck, then sure, I'll be a meta sheep all I want. But for this deck in particular, I didn't care for it to be a super meta viable deck. I really just wanted it to be a very fun deck to play, either casually or at locals that you can steal a couple of games off. I think this deck is sick, and I'm really excited to show you guys my current build. Now, I will say, as I said, I've only played this deck for 2 total games, so a lot of stuff in this deck is subject to change. I'm expecting to probably play with this deck a lot more, make certain changes once the cards actually fully release, and then potentially in a month or so, upload a second video, not a second video, an update to this deck, showcasing some of the changes I made and some of the revelations I've made with the deck, because currently a lot of cards in this deck that I am currently playing haven't actually come up yet, but that's just because I've played only 2 games, so we'll see if they actually do ever come up. So without further ado, I've been talking for a little long. Let's get straight on into the deck profile. I don't know why I said it like that, but let's get on into it. So, for anyone that's seen any of my deck profiles in the past, you know I typically like to go Elestrals followed by runes. I'm going to change things up. I'm going to go with spider cards and non-spider cards is basically the way I'm going to be doing it. So, to start off with the spider cards, we are playing 3 copies of, let's put it right here, that looks good. 3 copies of Warmite, Champion of Hestia. This card is very good. It's very reminiscent of old Warmite, except it has the potential to get out of hand very fast. In addition, it is a fire healer, which is actually very, very important for this deck because you will be going through a lot of your spears very fast. There's not a whole lot of healing in this deck, so actually getting this heal off is very powerful. So Warmite is a 1 spirit fire Elestral. That is a 3/1 that says when it receives 1 or more fire spirits, you can target an Elestral and give it -3 attack until the next turn. The way this differs from normal Warmite is normal Warmite is just you can target an Elestral and give it -4 attack. So you're getting you're giving it less. The debuff of attack you're giving it is less attack. It's getting -3 instead of -4. But since it's a receive effect, not just a you can effect, this is an effect that you can do multiple times in a turn. And if you cast The second effect says, when a player casts Hestia's Hearth, you can return up to 2 fire from your underworld to your spirit deck. That's also very important. And it's also very important to note that Hestia's Hearth is a card that will allow you to enchant fire from your underworld to a card in your field. And then so that will trigger the Warmite for a second time. And then Hestia's Hearth then says, if the card you enchant is a Champion of Hestia or a Hestia, you can enchant an additional Fire Spirit to it. So you have a potential for this card to actually target an Elestral and give it -9 until the next turn, or you can target 3 of your opponent's guys and give them all -3. So this card is a very, very powerful card given the right circumstances. If not given the right circumstances, it pretty much just trades for an Elestral every single time, or at least a 1-cost Elestral every single time. And it's a very, very powerful card that is searchable in this deck off of some of your other cards. And it's a spider, so we're going to play it in this deck. Next up, we are playing 1 copy of Arachne, Champion of Hestia. This is one of those cards that really hasn't come up for its effect. This came up in my first game I played with this deck. But the only reason it came up is because I needed to misenchant it in order to get a 5 attacker on board, so I could hit over a defense position Titanic Strike champion in order to basically go ahead and attack for game. But the reason you're playing this card is because it is a searcher for your stadium room in Arachne's Lair. This card allows you to disenchant 1 from your Hestia. Sorry, I should say disenchant a fire from your Hestia, to search your deck for an Arachne's Lair and add it to your hand. And during each end phase, an opponent must expend 1 spirit equal to the number of Elestrals on their field if Arachne's Lair is enchanted. So not only does this card search out your Arachne's Lair, it also burns your opponent while it's on board and properly enchanted. I will say, I started playing this card just as a means to search the Arachne's Lair, and I played it at 1 because I thought it was searchable off another card. Turns out I misread the card. It's not searchable in this deck. But you do have additional search targets, and overall this card is just not the greatest thing in the world. It's very powerful. Being a 5/7 is good, and a lot of times you don't even need to properly enchant this one, especially if you already have an Arachne's Lair up. But if you are in a position where you can properly enchant this card, it's actually very, very powerful because, again, it's a 5/7 that can burn your opponent as long as the Arachne's Lair is enchanted. It's a very, very powerful card. I'm currently playing 1, might bump it up a little bit later. I might cut it entirely. I just have to basically test with it. For now, I think 1's totally fine. Next up, we are going to talk about one of the new cards. Well, one of the brand new cards, not just a titled version of an existing card. Kite Might. Kite Might makes its way into FIRESTORM, a 1 Spirit Wind Elestral, 1/4, that says you can disenchant Wind from this Kite Might in order to special cast a Warmite or a Frostmite from your deck. We are mostly using this just to grab ourselves a Warmite from deck. However, we are playing a 1-of copy of Frostmite just in certain off scenarios where our opponent's Elestrals are in defense position and we need basically something to clear over it. Frostmite provides that, being a 1 Spirit Frost 3/1 that can target an opponent's Elestral and give it -5 defense until the end phase. It does that very, very well. Now, there is another reason why I'm playing Kite Might at 3 and not just like 2. I was testing this card at 2. I decided to bump it up to 3, and there's a reason for that I'll get into once I go over Arachne's Lair. But we're not quite done. We have 1 more spider to go through. This card is truly insane. 3 copies of Arachne, another brand new card. Just the Nexus form of Arachne, and it obviously is the Ascension of Kite Might. This card is a 6/5, 2-cost Wind Elestral that says this Arachne can be normal cast with 2 Wind if Arachne's Lair is enchanted. This is an incredibly powerful card because it's just basically a Lith that can cast itself from the hand for free. Well, not for free, but it can cast itself from your hand without having to ascend it or anything. And it's a 6/5 stat line, which is just absolutely insane. There's pretty much no counter in the game that can really deal with this other than a PTA, and if you're a PTA or a shield. And if you're spending 3 spirits, then you're feeling very good because your Arachne's Lair is up and you can just cast it again next turn. Well, for shield specifically, if they PTA it, then they will obviously destroy it. But at the same time, you still have a 4 attacker that you can use to potentially get in for some bit of damage. So that is still very powerful. I really like Arachne in this deck. I think it is such a powerful card, and it's a very, very good card overall. So for the spiders we're not playing OG Warmite. I was thinking about potentially throwing it in as a one-of, but I just think new Warmite is so much better. It comes in as essentially a 6 attacker, while old Warmite essentially comes in as a 7. But I just think for the fact that new Warmite has, yes, it gives you less attack, but it's effectively the same thing. Like, you're fine with it being a 6 rather than a 7. And it also has that heal effect. I felt like just playing 3 copies of new Warmite is totally fine. We're not playing OG FIRESTORM. I'll be honest, I don't even remember what OG FIRESTORM. Oh, I do remember what that is. It's the Rhyceros effect. But for fire, yeah, I'm not playing that. I just don't think that card's very good. And we're also not playing Arachne. I didn't realize Arachne had the effect that it did. For anyone who does not know, it gives all your opponents that are Elestrals -2 attack, and once per turn you can target an Elestral your opponent controls that has 0 attack and destroy it. I think that's very, very interesting, but I'm not playing it just because the spirit deck is a little tight in this deck. We are playing a lot of different spirits in here, so I really just don't feel like there's enough room to play an additional frost spirit. I could potentially cut maybe a fire. I'll go over that when I go over the spirit deck, but I just think the deck is way too tight as of right now to play what is it called? I just said it. It's why am I Arachne? There we go. I completely just my brain farted completely. But that's totally fine. We're gonna hop on in to the next card, and we're going to have to talk about some stuff because this card's absolutely insane. We're playing 3 copies of Arachne's Lair. Yeah, this card is crazy. This card, the amount of card advantage this singular card can amount you is absolutely insane. So let's go over all the potential use cases for a card like Arachne's Lair. This card says when a player casts Warmite, Frostmite, Kitemite, Arachne, Arachne, or Arachne, if I could speak, that'd be great. That player must draw 1 card. What is so good about this is that this is not a once per turn effect because it is a when effect. So if you have the opportunity to summon multiple spiders in a given turn, you can go ahead and just basically swarm your board with a bunch of these spiders, draw a boatload of cards, and you're off to the races. And I really like how this card interacts with Kitemite, because the way this card works is if you open Arachne's Lair and Kitemite, you go Arachne's Lair, normal cast Kitemite, draw a card off the Lair because it is a Kitemite that works with this. You then go Kitemite, disenchant from it, special cast a Warmite from deck, not only shrink one of your opponent's Elestrals by 3 attack, draw a second card off the Arachne's Lair. I think that is such a powerful play. It gets you through your deck super fast. Like, you can draw upwards of like 7 cards in a single game with this, as long as your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it, which a lot of times they won't. Stadiums, we'll see if Stadiums see a little bit more play in the FIRESTORM meta. I'm suspecting they probably will see a tad bit more play, but if they don't, then Arachne's Lair, the only thing that can realistically deal with this is a Thunderstorm. I just think this card is crazy powerful. You have to play this card at 3 because you need to get to it. The entire deck basically works around this card. Obviously, you saw Arachne can burn your opponent if Arachne's Lair is enchanted. Arachne can just be a lift from hand. It can just normal cast itself from hand with 2 win if you have the Arachne's Lair up. Arachne can also search this, but so you really do need to play 3 copies of this, but I don't think 3 is enough. We are also playing 3 copies of Jolton to search the Arachne's Lair. Like, I just think this card is so important to this deck. We need all the search power we possibly could have. In my first game that I played with this deck, I opened Arachne's Lair and Arachne. I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. What is going on? This deck is going to be super sick moving forward. Second game, I don't remember my exact opening. I didn't open Jolton or Arachne's Lair. I opened 2 Arachne. I think I opened a Kitemite, a Warmite, and I think an Astrabbit or something like that. I might be wrong about that. I don't remember exactly what I opened in that game. But I opened like a lot of spiders, and I was like, if I can just get to an Arachne's Lair fast, I can blow this game wide open. And sure enough, I didn't get to it super fast, and I did end up losing the game as a result, but I did eventually get a Jolton, search an Arachne's Lair. I crashed into one of my opponent's guys, or not, did I crash? No, I hit over it. And then like they dealt with the Jolton and all that, but next turn I went Arachne's Lair into Warmite into Hestia's Hearth, and I healed a bunch, I enchanted a bunch, I hit for a boatload of damage. They may or may not have, well, they did deal with the Warmite, but very next turn I was like Arachne, and the only way they realistically could have dealt with that was a Kinleo that they hit off the top. So like it was very, very powerful just off that. Oh, sorry, no, I didn't just normal cast Warmite. I normal cast Kite Might, so just off 2 turns, I pretty much dealt with an entire board of Elestrals, an entire board of runes, and I drew 3 cards as a result of it. Yes, it did cost me a couple of spirits, but I healed a bit back with the Warmite, and I was just going off. The problem with this deck currently is that you need to get to the Arachne's Lair, and if you either don't get to the Arachne's Lair, or if your opponent deals with it, you are in a much, much more difficult spot moving forward in your game. If you can stick in Arachne's Lair, you are in such a powerful spot. This card is so good for this deck. You need to make sure it sticks on this board. In addition to all these cards that we are playing, we'll start with actually the obvious one. We are playing 3 copies of the good old classic Bunny Rabbit. This card is still just absolutely insane. I'm shocked this didn't get hit on the June 1st list. This, in my opinion, should have at least gone to 1. It just provides you so much card advantage. Being at 3 means even if they deal with the first one, they can just cast a second one and you have to deal with it again. It's such an annoying card, but obviously it's legal at 3, so we're going to be playing 3 copies of it. And then for the very last Elestral in the deck, we are playing 3 copies of Ardbud. This card has yet to pop up, weirdly enough. I have yet to get this card in my grip once, and I'm so shocked that it has happened because I'm playing 3 copies of it. Why are we playing 3 copies of this card? Well, we're playing 3 copies of it because this card has the effect, when this Ardbud receives 1 or more Earth, you can search your deck for a 1-spirit insect Elestral and add it to your hand. That can search your Warmite, that can search your Kite Might, it can even search your Frostmite. It can search all of them because they're all insects. I initially was playing this card. This is the card that I misread. This card, I didn't misread it, I misremembered what it did. I thought this card, on receive, added an insect card from deck to hand. If this added an insect card, this would be even better, because Arachne's Lair is an insect card. If you want, this is a deck consideration. I couldn't find the space in my, in this deck personally to really play this. I might drop the Frostmite and add in the Ardvarum, but Ardvarum on cast searches an insectoid card, which can be your Arachne's Lair. So, if you want, you can go Ardbud, disenchant from one of your guys, search your deck, go ahead, grab an Ardvarum, grab Arachne's Lair, and not only do you have the Ardvarum, which is a 6 attacker, is it a 6 attacker? I actually don't remember, I think it's a 6. 6 attacker on board. You then also have the Arachne's Lair, which is follow up for next turn, because then you can just go Arachne's Lair, Arachne, draw a card, you're off to the races. Very, very powerful stuff if you want to go down that route. I decided not to, just because I couldn't really find the deck space for it, but this is the Elestral lineup. Honorary mention of Arachne's Lair. These are all of the spider cards we were playing in the deck, alongside some of the support cards. Jolton for searching, the Arachne's Lair, Rabbit because it's Rabbit, and Ardbud because it can search your Warmite, it can search your Kite Might, it can search your Frostmite, it can search all the fun stuff. So that's it for the Elestrals and the spiders. Let's get into the remaining runes that we are playing. And to start things off, we are playing 3 copies of Hestia's Hearth. I initially was going to drop this card down to 2, but the more I read it, the more I was like, hang on real quick. We are low on healing in this deck, and this card can essentially heal you from the underworld. In addition, it gives you potential, if you enchant onto a Warmite, it gives you additional value because you're shrinking an opponent's attack even more. Like, it's kind of crazy what this card can do. I want you guys to keep in mind, let's say your opponent has a Pantera out on board. If you go Warmite into Hestia's Hearth, you can shrink that Pantera from a 15 attacker to a 6 attacker, because you would go cast Warmite, shrink it by 3, Hestia's Hearth, enchant 1 onto it, shrink it by 3, Hestia's Hearth, enchant another 1 onto it because you're enchanting it onto a champion of Hestia, shrink it for another 3. Now, to be fair, you would still need one additional version. You would still need one additional, what's it called? I'm blanking here. 1 additional spirit in order to bring it down to a 3. But that is honestly fine because that's just how much. I'm not saying that that's a situation that's going to come up where it's going to be useful. I'm just saying that is something you can do. I'm just giving you guys basically a point of reference for how much attack the Warmite can drop, especially with a card like this. And I'll just read this card for all of you guys, for anyone that does not know what this card does, because this is obviously a new card. This is a 1 spirit fire counter rune that says enchant fire from your underworld to a card on your field. Then if that card was Hestia or a champion of Hestia, you can enchant an additional fire from your underworld to it. This card pairs very, very nicely with your Warmite champion of Hestia, and as I just talked about, it's very, very crazy what this card can do. In addition, since we are playing the Hestia's Hearth, I did feel like we should be playing just 2 copies of Hestia. I'm not playing Torchin. I initially was. Not only did Torchin not come up, I started thinking about it. I was like, do I really need Hestia? Like, the only card in this deck other than Torchin that I would be able to special cast from this is Warmite. And while yes, that is technically very powerful because it means you don't have to spend your normal on it, I'm fine with spending my normal on the Warmite. But I am still playing Hestia in here. Just for the fact that if I go Hestia's Hearth and I don't have a Warmite on board, I can still enchant onto the Hestia twice. That would basically net me a heal of 1, and then since I enchanted 2 into the Hestia, I can use that to then special cast something from my hand. I'm tempted in future builds to potentially drop Hestia just because we do only have 1 target for this. But in situations, I currently have yet to drop it. If I do drop this, I'd probably add additional counter runes. I'm tempted to throw Altar of Stars in here because that would make Hestia actually a very playable card in this deck. Because if you Hestia's Hearth onto a Hestia that you didn't enchant any additional spirits onto, again, you're getting a heal 1, but then you can go Altar of Stars, Nexus onto a Warmite, and you're off to the races once again. It's very, very powerful what this card can actually end up doing in the right circumstances, but currently I have yet to see it, so I'm tempted to drop it in future builds. And then, last but not least, we obviously have some of your staples. There's your Reston, there's your Ambrose, then we have your 3 Gorgons, you have your 3 Shield of Achilles, and your 2 copies of Tsunami, and that rounds out the deck. Obviously, as I sort of alluded to, the counter rune lineup is very, very low. As I said in the very beginning, for this deck, I really badly wanted to really focus on the spiders. I didn't really care if I dropped some staples here and there. Obviously, you're not playing the Like a Void line. You're not playing like Zeus. You're not playing Demeter. You're not playing Earthquake. You're not playing PTA. You're not playing Argo. You're not playing all 3 Tsunami. Like, there's a lot of stuff. I initially was playing Spectaris. I elected to drop it just because the Spirit deck was so tight, even with Spectaris just in there. I have elected to not go with that. I've elected to just play a bit more of a bare bones, just base Spider deck, and so far it's been very, very fun. But that's not it. We obviously do have the Spirit deck that we need to go into, so let's go ahead and hop on into it. So this is where things get a little interesting because we'll see how tight the Spirit deck is. We are playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 copies of Vipyro, the Fire Spirit. This for me has actually at times felt like a little too much. However, I think 7 currently is actually a pretty decent number. The reason why I think this is because that play that I was talking about before, which is Hestia's Hearth onto a Warmite, that not only is going to make it so the Hestia's Hearth can enchant 2 spirits onto the Warmite, giving you an additional -6 drop for one of your opponent's Elestrals. The Warmite has the effect to when you cast Hestia's Hearth, heal 2 fire. For that play to work to its fullest extent, you need 4 fire spirits in your underworld. So I feel like if you're dropping this down to 6, you have a lot less spirits to work with for that play to go through, and I think that is a very, very powerful play for this deck. Not only can you use that as like a combat trick in like the battle step, you can obviously get heals off of that, and that's also incredibly powerful. So that is sort of the idea that we're going for here. I think 7 is a fine number. If you typically are not using, I will say, Fire is actually, despite the fact that the majority of our deck is actually Fire, obviously we are running the Warmites, we're running the Hestias, Hearth, we're running the Arachne, we're running Arachne's Lair. All 5 of those cards are Fire. But weirdly enough, every single one of them, except for, I guess, Hestia, is technically a 1-drop. Hestia is a 1-drop, but you can enchant additional spirits onto it, and typically that's exactly what you want to do. Otherwise, the Hestia is offline. The only one that's a 2-drop is Arachne, but you're always ascending with Arachne, so it's essentially a 1 in that like weird circumstance. So I actually think 7 fire is a very, very fine number. I don't really think you need more than this. You could use less, but I'm scared to drop it down to 6. I think 7 is like the sweet spot, where 8 is way too much, 6 is way too little. I think 7 is that sweet spot. And then as an additional one, obviously we are playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wind spirits. I feel like this has been good. I was initially playing with 4. I decided to bump this up to 5 for the sole reason that I want to typically in a given game, the only wind cards we're playing are Arachne and Kite Might. But in a given game, I want to typically go Arachne twice and Kite Might once. That is going to cost you 5 wind spirits. So I think 5 is perfectly fine. If you do want to play Hurricane, I might genuinely bump this up to 6. You could just stick with the 5 and potentially heal it over an Ambrosia. I don't know what's going on with my Ambrosia luck in this deck. In those 2 games I've played, I haven't seen Ambrosia once. I don't know what's going on with that. It's just like I haven't seen Ardbud. I don't know what's going on with that. But that is just sort of a consideration. The next spirit is one that you can argue is too much. We are playing 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Zaptor, the Thunder Spirit. The reason we're playing this is because we're playing 3 Rabbit and we're playing 3 Jolton. For me, playing 6 1-drops in a single element, I typically like to run 4 spirits. However, I have seen situations where I just hit one of them. I hit either a Jolton or a Rabbit. And yes, you can re-enchant the Rabbit where you can't re-enchant the Jolton. But like, if I open Jolton and I don't see a Rabbit, I'm probably not going to be using those 4 Thunder Spirits on Elestrals this game. So I'm very, very tempted to drop this on 3 and adding additional Lycoris or potentially adding an additional Leviathan, as you're going to see in just a moment. However, for the remaining, that is currently 16. For the remaining 4 spirits, we are running 2 copies of the Earth Spirit Terratlas. We are running 1 copy of Leviathan and 1 copy of Flurmine. For these cards, I'm only running 1 Leviathan because I'm only playing 2 Tsunami, but a lot of times you will actually want to misenchant your guys with water just so that you can avoid an opposing Tsunami, which is why I'm tempted to drop a Zaptor for a Leviathan. That is a consideration for you guys to make. You can also drop a Zaptor for a Lycoris, so you can play like a Hurricane in here. For the most part, though, I have really, really liked this. The only other thing I'm tempted to drop is the Flurmine, because this card is only in here for your Frostmite. And a Frostmite doesn't ever come up. Like, so far it has not come up. I've seen it, but it hasn't ever come up because none of my opponent's guys have been in defense position where I felt safe to attack into them with a Frostmite because they've had like back row and stuff like that. If that continues to happen, I'm probably just going to drop the Frostmite, and that's going to mean I drop this Frost. If I do end up dropping this, I'm likely just going to run an additional Leviathan. If I then want, I can drop a Zaptor for an additional Lycoris. That's sort of the idea. If you don't want to run Hurricane, but you do want to drop the Zaptor, I would just throw in the 8th by Pyro, if I'm being entirely honest. I just think that's probably the way to go. Or if you want to play this exact deck, but you don't want to play the 4th Zaptor, drop the Zaptor for the Leviathan. That would be what I would recommend. But guys, that's going to be it for this deck profile. I really hope you guys enjoy this, and hopefully you guys are excited to see me back in action for these deck profiles, because it has been a hot minute since we have actually done this, and I'm really, really looking forward to coming back into it for you guys, giving you guys a lot of these fun deck profiles. I love doing them. I love this game. I feel like we're heading into maybe a potentially format, but as long as you're having fun, that's all that really matters. This deck is super fun, and I really hope you guys give it a shot. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to stop the like button and subscribe for more. Hope to see you all guys in the next video. Goodbye.